All right, it is Thursday, August 16th, and this is a meeting to check in on active design and usability tests for Backdrop CMS. I'm going to apologize in advance because I have two fighting kittens in the room, and by fighting I mean playing. But if you hear any weird noises, that's probably what that is. All right, so backdropcms.org. We have one major user experience area we're hoping to work on soon, and that is the process for selecting module schemes and layouts to install on your site. And hopefully, as we get that process cleaned up, it'll also be easier for people to determine the state of any given module theme or layout. So for example, if you're running a Drupal 7 site, you can search for a module your site's running. And if that site doesn't need to be installed on a Backdrop site, we should have some information on the module search page that says this isn't necessary in Backdrop because of the following reason. And sometimes that's module has been moved into core, or module has been incorporated into the system module, or whatever. An alternative module is recommended. It would also be nice to have that information right there on that page so that people can learn more about what's necessary to get their existing sites onto Backdrop. We have a meta issue for improving modules, themes, and layout pages at number 442 in the backdropcms.org issue queue. And there are a bunch of sub-issues in there that also include design-related changes to the modules, themes, and layouts pages, as well as the search results. And so I think we just need someone to kind of look at that and grab anything that they think they can handle and help us kind of make progress on that. So there's also designs there if people want to work from existing designs that we already have. I think the biggest issue is just getting all the information that you need onto the search result page. The search results look here in order to make some most sense to people. So we might need a little Solr tuning or maybe a little core search improvement. Things like making the title rank more heavily than the blog, stuff like that. All right, next website, forum.backdropcms.org. We have one issue that I actually was working on right before this meeting started, which is to make the drop-down widget for code block not cut off the names of the styles that are within it. And Wes sent me some CSS that I can put on the forum site, so that's what I'm working on adding right now. So hopefully that'll be done, maybe not before the next meeting, but this afternoon.
Is that just an issue on the forum, or is that an issue in Backdrop?
So it's an issue anywhere that the name of the code block styles is sufficiently long, because the drop-down widget that CKEditor provides is too short. So we also have a mention in our issue that we should file an upstream ticket with CKEditor to make the width of that drop-down as long as the content inside it, so that it isn't something that we're having to fix on every site based on the configurations of that site. So ideally, that would be a JavaScript fix. We don't have the solution we're putting on the forum site is the CSS fix. We could add a JavaScript fix that's distinct from CKEditor into Backdrop Core that would fix it on all sites. And that's also maybe a good temporary solution until we can get the upstream fix into CKEditor, because I don't know how long that would take.
Sure.
Tim, if you're thinking about it, could you file an issue against Backdrop Core and reference the forum issue, which is number 59 in the forum queue, and just say we might want to put a JavaScript-based fix for this in core?
Sure.
Thank you. All right.
Can I go back to the first issue?
Yeah, sure.
This seems like a good thing to talk about at the meeting. If I'm interested in that issue, how would I get involved in that issue besides commenting on it? I mean, if I actually want to work on it, I haven't done that before, so I don't know how I would get involved. Okay,
so it looks like the issue itself, issue number 442, is not currently, it's not a meta issue. It just says, we know that this searching isn't great.
Right.
So it says we want to, so here's a list of to-dos. Fix the weighting of titles over descriptions, add filters and sort order options for the search. And then there's some pictures of our original designs. So one thing to start working on that, if you wanted to see if you could tackle that, would be to grab a copy of the forum database, which we should have a sanitized automated backup being created. I'll need to check and see like what directory it's put into, and then there's a you should be able to grab a copy. I don't remember the exact procedure for that, but we tried to set it up so that anyone could grab a copy of any of the backed up sites and work on them. Okay. So we'll need to figure out where that is and properly document that. But then the next thing to do would be just to take the view and see if you could do things like add exposed sorts and filters to that view.
Right.
So I think that even if you can't get a copy of this site, you can get a copy of the site configuration from the repository, and you might be able to do like a full site config sync. Sorry, not the kittens. And if you can get a config sync, you'll get the content types in the view on your local, and then you'll be able to make changes to that view just from the code base. So you won't have the content, you won't be able to like determine if the search is working better than it was before. But things like adding exposed filters, you might not need the content for. You could use, example content. And then once I can get that information for you about how to grab a sanitized backup of the form site, you can plug that in and run the tests that way too. So the general process would be, right now this is assigned to me. I'm going to unassign it to me. You could use the assignee option at the top right and assign it to you if you want to take a stab at it. Or you could add a comment and say, I'm only going to work on adding filters and sort order options. And then that way people would know what you're working on and what you're not.
I'm not able to assign or change labels or anything on issues.
So that is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
In general, it should be that we have a bot. Anytime you add a comment onto any issue, it should automatically give you commit access to the issues repository, which would then enable you to use all of those things. I'm not sure that bot is working right now. Okay. So in order to get access to the GitHub issue queue, I would mention in Gitter, and maybe not right now, but just for anyone else who's watching, mention in Gitter that you don't have access to use the labels or tags or whatever. Mm-hmm. And anyone who is a committer on this project should be able to give you that access.
Okay.
Jen, do you know what issue? I've asked about the bot. I mean, we've been working a lot with the GitHub API and SSO already. Is there an open issue for what needs to be fixed with the
bot? We should
bot?
have a tag. Let's see.
There's a tag for GitHub API issues, but I couldn't find anything documenting what happened with the bot, how it's supposed to work.
I don't know that there is any documentation on the bot or how it's supposed to work.
Okay. Well, if you figure out the issue or someone creates the issue, we definitely can look at that and put some resources behind getting that figured out.
Okay. Was the label in the backup.cms.org view? Is it like
yeah, I still struggle keeping track of where issues are getting posted on the queues. So in one of the queues, there's GitHub API integration. It's in the same queue as the GitHub SSO ticket.
Okay. Yeah, we should also do a better job of documenting. Let me write this down too. Document where each type of issue should be filed. For example, GitHub API. How GitHub API integration should work. Okay, I don't know where that issue is either. I checked the queue for backup.cms.org GitHub and it's not there. I checked the one for backup issues and it's not there. Under backup ops, we have Node GitHub PR team member.
Is that?
This might be it. I'm going to send you a link in the chat here, Kevin. It looks like this is a GitHub thing. I don't know what it does.
Okay, so we're using the GitHub SSO on our sites because I haven't ported the SAML module yet.
Okay.
And it works fine as far as our testing has gone. I don't see any security issues with it. It's limited in that it's only synchronizing your GitHub username and the relationship to GitHub, so it doesn't have it doesn't move any of your real name credentials or any profile information from GitHub. So you still have to fill that out if you want that information on Backdrop. But in looking at the Backdrop CMS configuration and the desire to be able to generate projects from there, that seems like it has to be a first step, because otherwise you wouldn't necessarily know the user's GitHub credentials to be able to add them to the appropriate projects. So I don't know. I asked on the issue about what happened with that, if there were known issues with the SSO, or it just didn't get done.
So we were planning on using, I don't even know if we ever looked into GitHub single sign-on. It was on our agenda for a while, and then it got pushed to lower priority. So I'm not sure we even got that far. But right now, none of our Backdrop sites are tied to GitHub in any way, as far as users go. The only thing is that we have our packaging script that runs on backdropcms.org when tags are created in the GitHub group. So that is the only connection between the two sites. So for between our site and anything on GitHub. So for all of our bot stuff is just on GitHub. So it will take like existing GitHub users and grant them access to GitHub repositories, or it'll take, yeah, I think that's it. So it doesn't have any interaction with our sites or properties. So I think longer term, we are probably going to want to see more sophisticated integration, and we will need to do single sign-on as well, so that we can confirm that people on the Backdrop site are people on GitHub. But I think the primary goal for single sign-on was just to make it so that people who already have GitHub accounts don't have to create a new account on backdropcms.org. It was just sort of makes it easier to get new registered users tool. But yeah, all the GitHub related stuff isn't tied to Backdrop user accounts at all right now.
So I thought Nate was saying that he wanted to generate project nodes to be able to create repos in the Backdrop contrib project before people were approved and joined as full group members. Did I misunderstand that, or that's not the direction you're trying to go with that?
I don't know if that's a long-term goal or not. But right now we already have all the projects being created, and we don't need to have an association to a GitHub account in order to do that. There were a couple of different recommendations I saw in different issue queues about adding a line to like the module's info file that might contain a GitHub username. And we could just as easily try and figure out the GitHub user that's like pushing the project to do that. I don't know that we need that in the info file.
Because your contrib project group is now at 70 plus people, which is a lot of people to have access to all the repos in there. And so what Nate was talking about when you guys were here was that there's within each project, there's a way to give people full access to that repo without having to have the administrative level access of the group.
Right,
I
but that
thought
doesn't have anything to do with our website, though.
I thought he was planning on controlling that via the project node, the same way it's controlled via Drupal. That currently users can't edit any fields in there, and that's how they would indicate that they would want to add additional co-maintainers without giving them full access.
I don't think we should take a GitHub task that people who have GitHub experience and put it behind a backdrop website wall. I think that because we're going to be losing, that'll break the knowledge that people already have about how to use GitHub. So I think what we should do, and I don't know whether it's worth going back and fixing all of the projects that are there now, but anyone who is a maintainer for a project should be a GitHub administrator on that project. And you can do that by, you can say, add collaborator, and you can specify a role in the interface. There's probably a way you can do that via the API as well, so that when somebody pushes a repository into the contrib group, the bot should automatically grant that user whatever permission it is for them to be a contributor with a role administrator, and then that person would now have the ability to add any additional co-maintainers in the same way, but they're doing it on GitHub with GitHub's tools, and they wouldn't need to be logged into backdropcms.org or even have a backdropcms.org account in order to make that happen. So I think we should definitely fix the permissions in the way where only the contributors have access to their repository, and the security team has access to their repository, and probably the bug squad in the future will have access, commit access to the repository. But not everybody in the group will have access to every repository. But I don't think we need any integration with backdropcms.org to make that happen. That's just GitHub's API. The integration with backdropcms.org, where that came from, was if you were a maintainer of a project, we wanted to give you the ability to edit that node on backdropcms.org, and we need some way to tie your GitHub username to a backdropcms.org username, if you have one, in order to have that control over the project. So I think in that case, we should use something like GitHub single sign-on and require that everybody who's a maintainer and has an account on backdropcms.org syncs them together. And then we can say, okay, since you're a maintainer for this project, you have edit access to this node. And the easiest way to do that might be just to change the node author value and then say edit own permission, and we don't need to have that user access by node ID or whatever project that handles that. And that might be a good way to bridge that gap. So there's two pieces of the puzzle. One of them is get more specific control over GitHub contrib groups, and that doesn't have anything to do with backdropcms.org. And then the other one is also let maintainers edit the nodes on backdropcms.org. And that will require some integration with single sign-on.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I'm not sure, I think you're right that this is not clearly stated in any documentation or issue or what have you. And I think you're right that we need to be clear about where this issue queue is, because every time we talk about it, I can't find it, and then you go away and you find it, and then you can't find it again later. So obviously our process there needs to be improved.
One thing that we've started doing is we set up a Google CSE, and we've been adding all of the backdrop projects with issue queues to that, so that from a single search, I can actually search all of the repos, which is great if you know the keywords that appeared in the issue, but because the terminology that we're thinking about is not always the same as what the backdrop community has adopted, we tend to still struggle to find what we're looking for. And then we don't know that the backdrop Pantheon drop repo has its own issues, and that the things we're looking for are not in there either. So yeah, so I put some notes on some of the issues for backdrop CMS about that. We still have some work to do on that Google CSE, but as far as consolidating and explaining what the different GitHub projects and repos are used for in different issue queues, I think that helps people find what they're looking for as well, since things tend to get spread out across several projects.
Yeah, I definitely think like trying to figure out where the bot issues are though is, and it might even be worth like creating a dedicated queue for that if we keep not finding them. And I don't know if using this node project is the place for it. I don't know how you guys are handling your GitHub API integration stuff. But yeah.
We run most of our APIs through Pantheon, not running them on GitHub. The service integrations with like CodeClimate and Travis we have configured within GitHub. So I'll take a look at this and see if this is where things are at and what this is actually doing. I just think we're in kind of a unique situation because we have multiple people using different repos in organization as well. So it's a little easier for us to test with administrative access in our own structure and then make the PRs.
Yeah, I don't even know where this like node program is running, which might be part of the reason why it's not working right now. Maybe it's not running. How would I explain it? Okay. We will figure it out. So that was an important conversation, but maybe not related to Backdrop. But Tim, did I answer your question enough about like how to get started if you wanted to help work on that modules issue for now?
You gave me some ideas. Somebody brought up, one of the active users in Gitter, I forget who brought this up a few days ago, something about the ability to provide sanitized databases and things for people who want to work, I think, on forums is what he was talking about. But
yeah, I think we should have that set up for backdropcms.org, the forum site and the API site. Okay. But I don't know where the backups live. There might be like a /backups directory or something, and I think that directory is password protected. So you would need to get the password from somewhere, and I don't know where that is either. So we set up like a clever process, but it might not be documented how to use it, which we need to do. So I think, we could just create a page somewhere on backdropcms.org or a GitHub README or something. We have a procedures folder with a bunch of READMEs in it that might be a good place to put that, just to kind of help people get started on that.
Sure. Okay.
Okay, so backdropcms.org forum site, Backdrop the product is next on our list here. And this meeting is supposed to focus specifically on issues that need designer review and user experience issues. And so one that we need designer review on is the installer design update, which is 2873. There are a couple of comments and recommendations there on how to improve the installer for mobile devices. And I think we just need to find someone to say, yes, that's an improvement. And then we'll be able to move forward on that. So that's open for commentary, but does not have any code on it yet. So if someone read it over and said, oh, it looks like it's ready for code, we could also start moving on that too. In terms of usability issues, we have our longstanding issue number 37 about improving the modules page. We have, I think, reached a consensus, but not reached a pull request that matches the consensus. So that could use work on it. If anyone wanted to work on improving the modules page on Backdrop, that would be great. We have an exciting new issue about adding saved draft back to core. The doc one, this is a different one. That was going to preview. So now that we have the ability to schedule posts, we want to make it clear to people when they are saving a draft that they are saving a draft. So there's two issues related to that, 1383 and 3122. Those could use some feedback. So if someone wanted to just give those a test in the sandboxes and see what you think is an improvement, does it still need work, we could get moving on those too. Issue number 2858, this is when you're installing a module that is dependent on another module. We need to improve the messages or maybe update. When you're updating your site and your update is dependent on a specific version of a module, explaining to people which version and which module is dependent would be useful. So there's an issue to fix that. On the manage display subpages. The page title is missing. That just needs a backdrop subtitle added into those forms. It's issue number 3141. Project installer, here we go. Here's what I was thinking of earlier. If there's a problem with dependencies, we need to make the messaging clear, and that's issue number 3143. And if there is a problem with dependencies and you still want to either enable the modules you can enable or finish your install without enabling, we need to make that clear. And that's issue 3142. Oh, looks like that one's ready to be committed, so that's exciting. Good work on that, everybody. Next issue is adding a fourth message type, which is going to be info, and it's going to be blue. The issue number is 3155. It looks like that issue is marked needs work. And as soon as that one gets in, we'll then be following that with a flurry of updates to core to change things that are currently success messages into info messages so that it's clear to people when things are successful. Here's an exciting one. Issue 1949 is theme settings preview. So if you're changing theme settings, in particular, for example, changing the color of your site, it'll give you a preview of what those theme settings will do. There's other theme settings that your site or theme might also include. For example, in Bartik, you can change the tabs from like rounded to square corners. Having a preview of those would be great. Issue number for that is 1949. Looks like we could use some feedback. Issue number 566 is to make the submit buttons on forms sticky so that you don't have to scroll a million miles to hit submit on any form. There is a pull request for that. Looks like it currently needs review. And then issue number 3193 would make specific modules promoted in the module installer. So for example, if you're looking for a reference module solution, we have both entity reference and references in Contrib, but we would want to recommend the reference module because that's the ideal solution for Backdrop. So just the idea that we could mark a module as promoted and will show up at the top of the installer and the top of the search page on backdropcms.org, I think will help new people who are looking for specific modules find the ones they need. So we have a milestone for all issues in 111. We also have a tag for all issues tagged design related. If you're looking for usability issues, all of those issues have square brackets in the title with letters U and X between them. So hopefully you should be able to find any issues on design, any issues coming up to the next milestone, or any issues for usability if you're particularly interested in solving those. They're all in there too. Is there anything in particular in that list or otherwise that we should talk about, or something that's not on the list we should talk about today?
I don't know if this is the right place. I think there's an open issue on performs.backdrop because all of the comments are being reproduced twice. It's a pretty obvious and
okay. Let's definitely, that sounds like a bug.
Yeah.
I know sometimes comments are duplicated if they are either marked as selected or helpful. They show up at the top of the page.
Yeah, what I'm thinking about is all of the comments are repeated in their entirety. You go through the entire list of comments and then you see them all again.
That definitely sounds like it's not supposed to be happening.
Yeah.
Is there a link to an issue?
I can find it. I know I opened an issue on it. Or somebody else actually might have had it open already. I will add it to the
64. I just posted it into the chat.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so we made some changes recently to the forum site. This looks like it could be like a layout thing where it's
right
on the node and then also separately as like a block on the layout or something. So hopefully that's not going to be impossible to fix. Okay, thank you. And hopefully if I can get the CSS thing fixed today. That one can go in at the same time. I'll just take a look and see. But if anyone wants to work on layouts first and gets to it, that's also fine. I'm happy with that. Okay, anything else we should talk about? Right, we have another meeting in 12 minutes that will be a check-in on weekly development tasks for Backdrop, and we'll look specifically at things that are slated for the 1.11 release. So thanks guys for coming, letting me know about one issue, chatting about how to get Contrib figured out. And thanks to everyone who's watching live, and we will meet again in 8 minutes to talk about more stuff. So see you then.
Okay, thanks.
Bye.